In the early 19th century, Cherokee people strove to understand the culture of encroaching white settlers. In this Cherokee Almanac, we learn the story of a young woman named Catharine Brown and how she navigated those uncertain times.
Catharine Brown contributed to creating a network of supporters for the Cherokees during a very pivotal time.
She really was a trailblazer. It had to have taken a lot of bravery for her because she was stepping out from generations of tradition.
In 1817, the American Board of Commissioners for Foreign Missions established the Brainerd Mission School in the Cherokee town of Chickamauga, present-day Chattanooga, Tennessee. A 17-year-old Cherokee named Catharine Brown was one of the mission's earliest students. Catharine Brown was born around the year 1800 near the Cherokee village of Creek Path. The missionaries were excited that a young woman from a prominent Cherokee family was interested in attending.
Part of the project of the missionary schools was really to remake gender roles in the Cherokee Nation. But again, in having to interact with missionaries who had very different ideas about what it meant to be a woman, Catharine Brown worked within the conduits that became available to her.
Catharine soon began to pray with her fellow students and assisted in teaching the Lord's Prayer to the younger girls in the school. Catharine grew close to the other women at the mission. Modern scholars theorize that these relationships might have provided comfort for Catharine, as they resembled the social environment Cherokee women were accustomed to. On January 25, 1818, less than a year after she arrived, Catharine Brown became the first Cherokee Christian convert for the American Board of Commissioners for Foreign Missions.
At the time, writing letters was a very valued form of literacy, especially for women in Euro-American culture.
Catharine's baptism and writing proficiency were points of pride for the missionaries, and her written letters were sent to benefactors in New England as proof of the value in their work.
But oh, my dear sister, how many of our brethren and sisters are yet in darkness, living without God and without hope in the world? They have precious and immortal souls to be lost or saved.
As Catharine wrote these letters, they were very treasured by their recipients. Many of them began to be printed in newspapers at the time. Interestingly, she became almost a celebrity figure for these Christians in the Northeast.
Catharine Brown's conversion to Christianity and the popularity of her writing was likely held up as evidence that Cherokee people, specifically Cherokee women, could become domesticated and therefore civilized.
So there is this kind of insidiousness in that kind of designation and that appellation being applied to any group of indigenous people, because there's this notion of a model minority. But unfortunately, I believe that her conversion was used strategically to try and send a message to other Cherokee people that if they could behave in as respectable a manner, that they would be treated better than they were.
In 1820, the success of a boys' mission school in Creek Path created a demand by the community for a girls' school to be built as well.
Catharine was proposed as a teacher for the girls' school, and this was very enthusiastically received by the residents of Creek Path.
I take great delight in teaching. The number of girls in the school is 28. They are very good children and learn fast. Sometimes the work appears too great for me, and I am almost discouraged. But I know he that has called me to work in his vineyard is able to keep me.
Catharine found fulfillment teaching in her hometown and being near her family, but it wasn't long before her brother fell ill and Catharine went with him to water.
She participated in some rituals of healing for her brother's health that tend to have quite a bit of resonance within Cherokee culture, even at the same time as she was very much engaging in Christian religious practices that she was being taught by the missionaries.
Her brother eventually passed away, and soon Catharine began to display similar symptoms. She was taken to Huntsville, Alabama, and was treated for a few weeks before succumbing to her illness at the age of 23. 2 years after her death in 1825, a missionary named Rufus Anderson compiled her letters and diary into a memoir. It was immensely popular and was reprinted many times and in multiple languages.
It's possible to speculate that the representation of Catharine Brown was one of the most widely circulated representations of a Native American woman in the 19th century, that she and her writings reached more readers than nearly any other person.
She really was a trailblazer. I mean, she really was. At the very least, she exhibited a strength that is absolutely there in all Cherokee women.
But now I must leave you, my dear friend, and wishing you the light of God's countenance, I bid you adieu.